Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Sorry that I'm kind of late today, but I was trying to finish up a video to clean up a lie that was placed on MSNBC that could actually have repercussions because of who we call experts. But beforehand, welcome aboard all our wonderful people. Welcome aboard. Let me go ahead and salute the folks that are here first, and then we'll get right down to business. Michael, let's say Michael Radner, welcome aboard. We also have Eric Hayes, welcome aboard. Lee Grant, Patrick Magner, meow says, Mike Cisak, welcome aboard. On our super chat, we have Seth Nordmeyer, Dale, Joyce Legacy, Charles White, Lee and Clausen, Donna. Well, I know you guys have seen the news, then that is that Charlie Kirk at a university campus in Utah was shot. It seems like he got shot in the neck. Nobody deserves to be shot. Nobody deserves to be killed. Nobody deserves to be hit at all. At all. At all. Let's put that blanket statement out there. We shouldn't be using guns to affect the unaliving of people. That should not occur. We know that, okay? So let's get that out of the way. That should not occur. But Charlie Kirk was shot. Now, here's the thing, and I want you guys to listen well. Here is the thing. This country, after we went through the turmoil in the 60s, early 70s, in the 60s with the civil rights movement, in the 70s, the anarchists, etc., and all these things are understood. We got to a place in this country where things started to even out. But then we got the hate spill starting with I don't know if you guys remember the moral majority, the moral majority, the silent, the ones who, the quiet majority, all these people came along and fomented a level of hate, again, a level of hate that we had not seen in a while. And all these folks are running around this country promoting hate, putting people's lives in danger. When you see what you see on the streets, people going missing, people being thrown down to the ground. When you start to see these things, the reaction you get from people, and we don't know what was the cause of this. We don't know, and I'm just saying this, but this gives me the opportunity to talk about this, right? When you see the amount of violence perpetrated on innocent people, sanctioned by the state, a state that is inched along by a bunch of haters, when you see that, those people on a string, those people that feel they have nothing to lose, those people that feel that way. Think about the millions of people in this country right now who have done good things in this country, created good lives in this country. To know that any day they step outside, you can have a bunch of Donald Trump thugs throwing them to the ground and destroying their families. When you have nothing to lose, how do you act? We're not condoning anything here, but we're trying to say for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. All of the times, we have to be very cognizant of these things in our society today. And what Donald Trump has unleashed on this country, what Donald Trump has unleashed on this country is devastating. And we ought to call it out for what it is. We have to call it out for what it is. Now, I am preparing this blog post right now. Bear with me as I add the video to it, because I want to send this out as soon as possible, and I'm doing it live on air. I'm preparing this quick blog live on air. I'll clean it up later, but I wanted to get it out quickly because misinformation has a tendency of flying quicker than real information. And I don't want it to cauterize. I definitely don't want it to cauterize before we get some responses out there. So give me a chance to do a click on this baby. And I don't want to send it out yet, but I do want to get it posted. I'll send it by email to our team, to our list in a bit. But what I want to do is first get it out on the notes so that people are not fooled. All right, and anyway, yes, let's go ahead and do that. Thank you very much. Add that those buttons there. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right. So what I am going to do is I'm going to put this stuff up on the screen in a minute, and then we'll get busy. But I want to get the information out, and then I want to put the video on. Yes, I'm discussing Charlie Kirk. Do you lie? So let's see. Click on this. Click on that. Continue. I'll be with you guys in 2 seconds. I don't want to ship it out yet, but I want it there. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play you the video that I just made it. I just cut it because it was upsetting that I knew I had to get it out. Let's go ahead and do it right this minute. Come on. Doing this stuff in real time, folks, sometimes it's crazy. Katie Tur brought an expert from a terrorism expert to her show. His name is Chris O'Leary, Senior VP of Global Operations at the Sufan Group. This guy comes on, and in talking about the issue, the first thing he says, he would have expected the left to have more violence than we're presently seeing. But then he goes ahead and he says, but historically in this country, terrorism, domestic violence has mostly come or had come mostly from the left.
I rushed up here from the Global Summit on Terrorism and Political Violence. One of the topics was addressing this, and one of the questions asked earlier in the day to what we called the Mount Rushmore of terrorism experts, which is Peter Bergen, Brian Jenkins, Bruce Hoffman, and Dame Louise Richardson, decades of terrorism research. Why haven't we seen more violence from the left yet? Because the conditions are set, and normally we would see the cyclical effect that we'd see more violence coming from the left against the right. It's maybe a little bit more of a slow burn, but what generally happens is people look for legitimate solutions to their grievances, and when they can't find those or they feel ignored, then they will mobilize towards violence. So that's the traditional standard. If you look at political violence in the United States, which is a very unpopular thing to say, but through our history, most violence, what we would consider political violence, has come from what we'd categorize as the left. Now, that is from the anarchist movement straight up through the mid-1970s, and then we started seeing more right-wing violence after that. All went away after 9/11, because if you were throwing bombs or conducting shootings, you were lumped in with global jihadists.
So it is patently false. Patently false. And what I had to do is immediately go ahead and do the research to find out that we have this guy purporting himself to be an expert that is completely ill-informing Americans in these dire times. A time when Charlie Kirk gets shot, we don't know by whom or ideology or anything, but let me tell you, I went ahead immediately and did our research. And most violence by a large proportion has occurred from the right. And here is the evidence that I've put it in my Substack, title False. MSNBC expert claimed most violence comes from the left. It is a false statement. Most violence has come from the right, from the inception of this country.
All of our country's problems from.
And here is the evidence. Okay, here is the evidence. It says throughout American history, the overwhelming majority of political violence has come from the political right, although there have been notable episodes of left-wing violence as well. Understanding this requirement, examining different eras and their dominant political forces. So, right-wing political violence, a persistent pattern. Slavery and Reconstruction. In the 19th century, right-wing violence was foundational to the U.S. political landscape. Before the Civil War, pro-slavery forces regularly used violence to suppress abolitionist speech and uprising, from bleeding Kansas to the beating of Senator Charles Sumner on the Senate floor. After the war, the Ku Klux Klan and other white supremacist groups launched campaigns of terror during Reconstruction to establish white rule and disenfranchise black voters. This was political terrorism explicitly aimed at overturning Democratic gains. These groups were linked to the Democratic Party of that era, which was the party of the Southern planter elite. Labor movement suppression. In the late 1900s and the early 20th century, industrial capitalists and conservative governments used state and private violence to crush labor organizing. Events like the Haymarket Massacre of 1886, the Ludlow Massacre of 1914, and countless strikes involved police and National Guard and private strikes attacking workers fighting for fair wages and conditions. The violence was politically aligned with the right-leaning corporate interests of the Gilded Ages. Civil rights era. During the 1950s and 60s, segregationists, overwhelmingly conservative and right-wing, perpetrated widespread violence against the civil rights movement. The bombing of the 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham that killed 4 black girls, the murder of Medgar Evers and Martin Luther King, and the beatings of freedom riders were all acts of white supremacist right-wing terror. State governments in the South often colluded with these actors. In other words, the actual government was a part of the right-wing violence against its people. Now, modern right-wing extremism, since the 1990s, most domestic terror incidents have come from the right. And it's interesting because when the FBI, before Obama, but they got the report released during Obama, when they said that the biggest threat to the United States locally is that from terrorism on the outside, it was terrorism from within. Domestic terrorism is what the FBI report said, coming from the right. And what did we get? The Oklahoma City bombing, 1995, by Timothy McVeigh targeted the federal government and killed 168 people, including many innocent children. White supremacist mass shootings such as Charleston 2015, El Paso 2019, and Buffalo 2022 fit into the pattern. The January 6th insurrection. So when we have somebody as that seem to have a short memory, like our brother on the chat here, Eric Hayes, saying, "Oh, when do you see right-wing people rioting?" The biggest riot we've had in a while, January 6th, 2021, was an explicit right-wing attempt to overturn a democratic election. Data from the Center of Strategic and International Studies and the Anti-Defamation League show that 75% of political killings in the U.S. since 2008 have been perpetrated by right-wing extremists. So take that and smoke it, folks. All of this misinformation, again, and I needed to play that because when I saw the guy leading up to saying, and people are not going to like what I'm going to say, you can see this as a buffoon. Big title, no research on national TV. Big title, little research on national TV. It's a shame. Hey, Rudnan, if you are there, please go ahead and post my Substack to Twitter. post it to all your channels, and please tag Katie Tur and tag the buffoon that actually told that lie. Please do it. This is how misinformation gets started and gets inculcated into the minds of people. No, from the inception of this country, political violence has come mostly from the right, and the left has always been a response to that. You doubt it? Here are the political stuff from the left. Anarchist violence of the late 19th and 20th century. Why did they come about? Again, from the effects of the right suppressing people, whether underground and radical groups, same thing. Vietnam War, all these issues, and present day, very little. People like to use a Black Lives Matter as thing, but here's the thing. Here's even as they include Black Lives Matter. Here's what they say. Black Lives Matter overwhelmingly emphasize nonviolent protests, despite right-wing media portrayals to the contrary. So the right wing lies about those portraying media. We have to get it right. That one statement by the one person needs to be immediately fact-checked. Everyone has to share them forward. Please, please go ahead and share my this. Please share this immediately, my brothers and sisters, because this is how this stuff gets a life of its own. That's the link right there. I'm going to put it in both chats. That's the link right there. But I wanted to get the video in there as well to show that not because somebody has an expert name behind them and appearing on TV means that they know what the hell they're talking about. But what they can do is go ahead and misinterpret and change the narrative altogether. So, folks, please, as you share this, please be sure to tag Katie Tur, tag MSNBC, and put a statement in there. Please don't use our national airwaves to lie to the American people. Please don't. So please, folks, share this widely. We cannot have our airwaves used to lie to the American people. It is dangerous. It is very, very dangerous to do that, especially in these times. Yes, and Natalie Lago, you're absolutely correct about how the lies that was told about the Black Panther. If you remember when Reagan didn't want any gun control in California until they saw those black guys walking in California with guns. And then it was, I guess we need gun control now. Now let's get on to an important subject where this should take us, right? Charlie Kirk, the President of the United States, both victims of assassination attempts. And this should never, ever happen. I state, this should never happen. Nobody should be assassinated. Nobody should run that risk of that at all. But here's the thing. These are the people who don't get that as you have more guns out there, as you populate the entirety of our system with guns, what the hell do you think is going to happen? More guns, more possibilities of gun violence, and that is what we get. We can look at the last few shootings, the two politicians in Wisconsin that were murdered by that right-wing extremist. You don't hear anybody talking about that much. This guy on TV, as he was calling out these things, he forgot to call that out. Two politicians. These weren't attempted assassinations. These were murders by a right-winger going around with a mask on, killing politicians he thought was left-wing. Right? All these kids that were gunned down by disturbed people. So let's be very, very clear in Minnesota. Yes, Mary P. Let's be very clear. Two things we got to be careful of. The unadulterated excesses of guns that we have in the United States, number one. And number two, that we have a culture of hate from the right. I should add a third one, that the Donald is creating an creating a domestic police force that rivals every army in this country except 3. Think about that. We are creating a police force in this country that rivals the next 3. That there are only 3, I think, military things that are going to be more powerful than the police force that Donald is putting together with ICE. What the hell do you think he's going to use that police force for? What do you think he's going to use that police force for? And I tell you one thing, though. We have a lot of people that have nothing to lose. Their personal economies have left them. Much have left them. What do you think is going to happen? And for all of those who are fearing martial law and all that kind of stuff, when you have people at the point of a revolution, none of that matters. And I'm going to tell you something. Donald Trump and the right wing, they are pushing us very close to people throwing their hands up and saying, what else the hell do I have to lose? After all, in November, I won't be able to afford my health care. And if I get a tumor or something, nothing happens. What else is there? For the 10 million undocumented workers that are left in this country, what do you think they're going to say? I have nothing to lose. I don't know the country that I'm originally from. I don't know that country anymore. Egberto, one more time, asking you to read out this comment in full. Where is the comment? Put the comment down again, Michael, because things are scrolling crazily. So please put the comment again, and I'll definitely read it, as long as it doesn't have obscenities in it. So put the comment in there again, Michael. Yeah, please repeat it. Anyway, so from Michael. Michael says, Egberto, I'm already tired of the alt-right spinning their usual conspiracy brains. Mike C., if the left ever actually declares war on the alt-right, you'll really know. It won't be some BS talking point with a handful of shots against pundits. It will be more instances like Luigi against CEOs and other billionaires. In the next year, the economic policy that Republicans have pushed forward is going to put over 10 million Americans off of healthcare, where tens of millions can't afford groceries alongside all their other bills. The social unrest that will follow is going to be bad, really bad. Just understand, the left has guns too. Very true. And I have a lot of friends now that I would have never thought would have said we are going to get our guns too. A lot of friends, that pretty much say that. So let's be clear here. All of this is unavoidable. This is a very rich country. When does the revolution start, Egberto? I'm ready to go where and when needed. Let me tell you, Steigen, I am trying like hell for there not to be a revolution. I'm trying like hell to get people to have their senses and say, let's mitigate, let's do the right thing. I want peace. I want harmony. That's what I want. I want people to be living in harmony. I want people to believe in love. And I think that's where most people are. And I know it sounds corny now. Sounds corny as hell. But if you take a look, most people, the problem that they have is they are so misinformed. Look at this. This event just occurred, and we have a liar come on TV and give a bone to Donald Trump. That expert coming on TV, that terrorism expert coming on TV, he goes ahead and he says, most of the violence in this country have really come from the left. But then at the same time, because he has to accept reality, he's saying terrorists are wondering, why is it taking the left so long to react? I'm going to play that again for you. I want you guys to listen to what this guy had to say. In effect, he's saying, oh, there's not a lot of violence from the left right now, and we are shocked But then at the same time, he said, but most violence come from the left. Listen to it again. I think I want people to listen to this again. Katie Tur brought an expert from a terrorism expert to her show. His name is Chris O'Leary, Senior VP of Global Operations at the Sufan Group. This guy comes on, and in talking about the issue, the first thing he says, he would have expected the left to have more violence than we're presently seeing. But then he goes ahead and he says, but historically in this country, domestic violence has mostly come or had come mostly from the left.
I rushed up here from the Global Summit on Terrorism and Political Violence. One of the topics was addressing this, and one of the questions asked earlier in the day to what we called the Mount Rushmore of terrorism experts, which is Peter Bergen, Brian Jenkins, Bruce Hoffman, and Dame Louise Richardson, decades of terrorism research. Why haven't we seen more violence from the left yet? Because the conditions are set, and normally we would see the cyclical effect that we'd see more violence coming from the left against the right. It's maybe a little bit more of a slow burn, but what generally happens is people look for legitimate solutions to their grievances, and when they can't find those or they feel ignored, then they will mobilize towards violence. So that's the traditional standard. If you look at political violence in the United States, which is a very unpopular thing to say, but through our history, most violence, what we would consider political violence, has come from what we categorize as the left. Now, that is from the anarchist movement straight up through the mid-1970s, and then we started seeing more right-wing violence after that. All went away after 9/11, because if you were throwing bombs or conducting shootings, you were lumped in with global jihadists.
So it is patently false. Patently false. So it's patently false. And you notice how he gives you the window where there was some left-wing reactionary stuff going on, right? Think about that. Think about that. No, I did it again because we got a lot more people in here, and it is essential that people understand what is going on. So, folks, like I said, again, please remember, share this post where we make the correction. I'm putting that back in the chat again. Please go ahead and share that Substack where we enumerate all of the issues that prove right-wing violence has always been the predominant political violence in this country. Right-wing, from the country's inception. It is important that we see that. Bruce Pollard said, my right-sided friend always claims violence in Chicago from the left. I don't see how cultural violence is by definition left side violence. It doesn't make any sense. Again, that is always grabbing at straws, because they're always grabbing at straws, Bruce. But these are existential times, and we don't have time for the rubbish. But anyhow, that wasn't the show for today. I just had to make this quick video and blog because, again, I only found out about Kirk's stuff about an hour and change ago, and had to quickly try to come up with something to dispel that lie that's out there. But I did have a subject stuff that I covered this morning that I think it's important. And let me go ahead and play it right now. It's about, I think it's about 9 minutes. I cleaned up what I did this morning. I do want, it is a video that sort of gives Trump a tiny bit of credit. Not really justified credit, of course, but you guys will see what I'm talking about in a minute. Let me go ahead and cue this up and go ahead and that played, and then we'll continue thereafter. But go ahead, Egberto. I want to talk a little bit about triangulation. You know, when you start putting labels on things, a lot of times you miss the boat. Anytime you talk about doing something for people, and, you know, too many neoliberal Democrats have adapted that as well. They want to call you just a socialist like it's a bad word, you know. A lot have adapted the word democratic socialist because, again, if you really want to define a best working society is where people are more happy, etc., you would see that that is what you classify as democratic socialist, what does that really mean? Socialists mean, in the case of that kind of a government, if you will, one that takes care of its people's welfare and at the same time has very strong free enterprise. And there are a lot of countries in Scandinavia that follow that patterns. And when we look at the OECD nations and we look at the levels of happiness in these nations, the ones that care about their people, the ones that excel in education, etc., that is where you see it, right? These aren't communist countries where the state controls all the means of production and all of that. That's the way they like to define this, right? Talking about Trump and triangulation, I want to show you guys, I hope people start to pick up on this. Specifically, I hope the Democratic Party pick up on this. Because back in 2016, I'd written an article at Daily Kos. And the article, I pointed out that Donald Trump was triangulating the Democrats. What he was doing, he was picking up on the things that people really want, not the way neoliberals define what people want, but they were picking up on what people wanted, the policies that people wanted, the working class, doing things like, oh, I support union full-throatedly, are the things that Trump used to say. I support Medicare for all. He didn't quite call it Medicare for all. He said, everybody have health care and it's going to be cheap. Those are the things that he picked up on. Never intended to deliver it, but he knew what the people wanted to hear. Donald Trump we're talking about. There is a new thing that he has started to do. And we have all the Democrats coming out and said, not only Democrats, but of course the corporate folks, Republicans, etc., because he did two things, one good, one bad. The good thing was he said Intel is getting billions of dollars from the taxpayer. With those billions of dollars, Intel is bringing back production into the United States and going to make big profits on these chips that they sell. So we, the American people, would have invested a lot of money into Intel. And for that, Intel is going to sell computer chips all over the world at high prices and make huge profits, as they always do. And Donald Trump's administration comes out and say, we're going to take a stake in Intel for the money the government paid into Intel, recover some of that money, and recover a profit for having invested that money. When that came out and Joe Scarborough and all our neoliberal Democrats were going crazy, in my mind, I was like, finally, I can say I have to be consistent in the way I speak. I talk about government putting dollars into research and drugs all of the times. All these drugs are originally designed by investment from the government. All our drugs that we use in healthcare are designed by the government, investment by the NIH and other. But when it's capitalized and the patents come out, the corporations, privately held by shareholders who sit at their pools and drink their coffee and do no work. But we, the people, all of you, whether you are if you're sweeping floors or you're a secretary or you're a teacher or whatever, your tax dollars went into funding Intel's factories returned to the United States, and you are not going to get any, as we don't want to pay teachers their real worth, as we don't want to pay a better minimum wage, etc. At the same time, these companies are making a killing off of these drugs that they sell at very high prices from patents that a large percentage of it came from us, the taxpayer. So when Donald Trump comes out and he says, we are going to start taking a stake into these companies who are taking dollars from the United States, our investments, how wouldn't it not be hypocritical if I went ahead and said Donald Trump is doing a bad thing there? I couldn't, right? I have to be intellectually honest. If you, the taxpayer, many of you having a hard time, but you're still paying your taxes. And then when Intel gets the money from the United States government and they make a big profit selling those chips that the United States government had a part in, only the rich people who have the money to buy Intel stock benefit from what all of us placed in there. So I don't have a problem with it. Now, of course, if a company develops its own stuff, let's call NVIDIA as an example, and Donald Trump now bribes NVIDIA and says, oh, NVIDIA, for you to sell to China, we got to get 15% of what you sell. Now, that is extortion, not the same thing. I don't agree with doing that to private companies at all. But if the government invests, and when we talk about government, we have to remember who government is. Government is all of us. We, the people, we pay the taxes. We do all these things in government. So I don't have a problem with it. Joe Scarborough this morning, I come into the studio, turn on Joe Scarborough, and Joe Scarborough is having a fit. We're socialists now because Secretary Lutnick, Commerce Secretary, is on an Axios show, and he says about Harvard and these other universities that get billions of dollars in research dollars, that when these research dollars create patents, and you guys, I don't believe in patents, okay? Let me just first tell you that. I think patents hold progress back, and it creates a system where wealthy folks can get more wealthy. I kind of talk about that in my book. As I see it, class warfare only resorts to right-wing doom. I'm strong about this. Patents, well, I'll go into that another time. When these universities get their patents, the universities that get the most money are these elite universities that many of our people of our working class will never, ever attend these universities, will never ever attend unless they get a scholarship or something, right? The Commerce Secretary comes out and says, well, when these universities get patents, we want to say some of that from the government investment should go back into the coffers of the government. Again, I have to be intellectually honest. I don't have a problem with that, with some caveats. If the university is saying I'm using the profits from our patents for more research and to give scholarships to unrepresented, etc., I don't have a problem with that. Then that is effectively what I would want the government, if they take some patent money, to do with it. Service the people. That's what it's all about. The welfare, the well-being of the people. But for Joe Scarborough to simply shout out, oh, socialists, socialists. No, what he's saying is elitist. Because what he's saying is the government, we the people, all of you, I don't care what work you do, you are paying taxes of some form, federal and local. You buy gas, you're paying taxes, federal and local. You buy stuff in the grocery store, you're paying state taxes. You are paying taxes up the gazoo. I don't have a problem with us paying taxes, but let's not make our government simply be a transfer of wealth from all of us to the few. And believe it or not, a clock can be right twice a day. Even a dead clock can be right twice a day. Why? Because if the hands are stuck at 2:00, it's going to be correct at 2 a.m, and it's going to be correct at 2 p.m. And I'm going to be honest with you, Donald Trump having the pelotas to have his people come out. I want folks to understand I'm being intellectually consistent here. Right now, the way our government spend our tax dollars is always biased towards the wealthy. You take a look at what we invest in from the military, etc. The ones who profit are the big companies. Do I think Donald Trump is getting a heart? Absolutely not. Donald Trump is a crook. Make no mistake about it. And what he's doing here with the patent stuff that he's talking about, what he's doing with taking an investment in Intel and that sort of stuff is nothing more than smoke and mirrors. What he's doing in those two instances is correct. But the reason to grab that money has very little to do with giving it back to us all. It's really collecting that money to give it back to his friends. A budget that he blew, he's using the tariffs, taxing all of us people. He's using all these different external funding so that he decides who benefits. I wanted to be consistent there. I wanted to make sure and be consistent.
All of our country's problems from polarization.
Absolutely consistent. So we have to be consistent on this, folks. We have to be consistent on this. Whoa, did he die? Is that real? I don't see that on the chart. I don't see that he's dead. Lee Grant, is that real or not? Oh my God. Let me see if that I didn't see that. I don't see that he's dead. Charlie, bear with me, guys. Bear with me, guys. I hope not. Oh man. Okay, I don't see that has made it over the wire quite yet. And I don't Lee Grant, where did you get that information? If you can type something in there and tell me where you got that information. Twitter. Okay. Oh, he is dead? Oh man, oh my God. Oh my God. Oh, oh yeah, Charlie Kirk is dead. Wow. Um, wow. 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 I feel for his kids. Was he married? I feel for his kids. Um, that is sad. Yeah, it just rolled over on MSNBC. He's dead. Wow. 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 To his family, my condolences. Um, look, we are in dire times right now, and wow, you know, we are going to have to realize that a lot of what we do have consequences. Um, manufactured hate. Yeah, they just reported it, Steigen. Manufactured hate actually kills. Creating. Wow. Hmm. And as I let me just get my wires in my head, okay, because anything with these, the thing is this, right? We've had politicians getting murdered over the last several weeks. We've had children being gunned down over the last several weeks. Good people. And as I'm watching this, I'm asking myself a question, and help me out here, folks. Help me out here. Um, that we are going to make a huge issue on Charlie Kirk being murdered by we don't know whom yet. But at the same time, those kids that were murdered in all these other incidences where we say, hope our prayers are with you. Will this make a change now that it's somebody that have, you know, yeah, well, he's gone. He's gone. We'll see what happens now. We'll see what happens now. We'll see what happens now. Anybody wants to? I'm a little bit out of it right now. Anybody wants to give me a call? 281-823-7747. 281-823-7747. Uh 281-823-7747. That is interesting. The country is really starting to heat up. Those of us that are not originally from this country understands a lot of this. Brother Patrick, how you doing, sir?
Doing great. How are you?
Man, we are in dire times, brother. Talk to me.
Oh, I was about 10 minutes behind, and I listened to most of the show, so I don't know what happened in the last 10 minutes. But the blaming the left for violence is something that I was calling in for. Um, Authoritarian thoughts or the desire for an authoritarian typically comes from the right, and it
Yeah,
typically comes from people that are undereducated or or intellectually have opportunities intellectually. You can also go to a lot of the foundations that seem to build boards around intellectuals, and most of those people are from the left. And what I'm trying to point out here is that people that don't have the faculties to tackle a problem, really think about it, argue, and problem solve it, get frustrated, and they
yeah,
become violent.
yes,
So
yes,
so we
yes.
should expect violence from people that don't really have the capacity to think and understand the world around them. And those are also the people that, hey, I want somebody to tell me what to do all the time because I don't know what to do because I don't really have the intellectual capacity. And so inherently, you are going to find problem solvers on the left and you're going to find violent people on the right.
Unfortunately, what you just said about what's happening, and we have teachers in the chat as well, and they can probably tell you a lot about what's happening with seventh and eighth graders. A report just came out that just shows the constancy in the decline of the masses in America. The constancy of the educational decline. I've always stated that democracy requires that most of your population be fairly educated. Democracies require fairly educated population. And what's happening from our middle schools, my daughter just became a teacher, and it's funny because yesterday she pointed out, Dad, I am going to have to make an extra effort to also teach a lot of these sixth graders how to read because they cannot read. And in the sixth grade level, you are supposed to be reading to learn, not learning to read. And she's one of her the people above her told her you're concerning yourself, you're in effect telling her you're concerning yourself too much, and she says no, I am not. Mike Cisak is on. Stay on here. I want to see what he has to say, but let's hold on a second. Okay, all calls are merged. Mike, what's up?
Yeah. Well, historically, authoritarian leaders have always come from the left.
Hitler was not from the left.
Absolutely
Again,
not.
no, I mean, this is a place where
National Socialist Workers Party.
Socialists don't have anything to do, not because it's labeled that way. The Democratic Party used to be labeled Democratic Party, but the Democratic Party was the party of the KKK. It is no longer.
Party.
Again, Mike, if you're not going to talk intelligence here, please hang up the phone because at this point, that's all we want.
I tell you what. Look. Communists.
All right. Anyway, Patrick, today I'm not in the mood of entertaining stupidity. I really am not. I am not in the mood today to accept patently false statements, to accept stupidity. Not at all. Nazis were not left. Nazi was the right. There's no doubt about it. Look it up, please. Anyway, continue, please.
Information I brought. The information I brought to the phone call is understood and accepted in behavioral science. There's nothing that I said that can't be looked up.
Yeah, I know.
The right is also more religious, and the reason why they're more religious is because they do look for authoritarian.
Let me interrupt you a second.
A lot of that belief is.
Patrick, let me interrupt you for a second, real quick. Just for those who saw that I kicked off my brother Mike Cisak, it's for this reason. It doesn't take a lot of research to get it right. So I go ahead and I just said the Nazi Party was just put Nazi Party in any encyclopedia in anything. Here's what it says. The Nazi Party was a radical far-right movement led by Adolf Hitler, whose ideology of Nazism was characterized by extreme nationalism, racism, anti-Semitism, and anti-democratic and anti-communist policies. Despite the socialist in its formal name, National Socialist German Workers' Party, the Nazis violently suppressed socialist and communist movements, targeting them for extermination and outlawing their parties and ideology. Mike, it doesn't take much to do casual research. Continue, please, Patrick.
Well, you can also just look back at history that the people that the Nazis went after first were people that in this country are from the left. The left tries to protect.
Yes.
So
Exactly.
I don't understand why he would think that otherwise. And as far as Charlie Kirk goes, he built a business on being inflammatory and really being just nasty towards other people. So if I were a betting man, I wouldn't give any more than 50% chance that it was somebody from the left. It's quite possibly somebody that he really upset that followed him, and they just didn't. Again, they didn't have the capacity to understand that what he's doing is just trying to sell himself and trying to make money, and they took him too serious.
Well, it turns out that they have the guy arrested, and it's an older guy. So we'll see what that is all about. I imagine a lot of that is going to come out in the next few minutes. But I just I just feel this discomfort for when you have we have about three people in our chat that uh, that is symbolic of what you're just saying. They just have the inability to understand, the inability to comprehend. Sharif Foltz asked, in your opinion, do you believe this horrible man causing so much hatred will ever see time? No, I don't think Donald Trump is ever going to make it to prison. I don't think he's ever going to make it to prison. And I think he won't make it to prison, not because of, mostly because just the system protects guys like him. I hate to say that. The system protects guys like him.
Well, yeah,
The system. Go ahead.
because capitalism infiltrated it, because capitalism infiltrated the our government. And then you were talking about education earlier. Capitalism invaded education. Texas is a
Yes,
conservative state, and that's where all the textbooks are redesigned and distributed. Those textbooks were intended to make money, not to make people intelligent or informed, and
exactly.
that's what's gone wrong.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, let me tell you, I will never give up. I think all of us, what you're doing, what all of our progressive folks are doing, the one thing we got to keep them is keep our eyes on the ball. We have to disregard the people that have, we have to disregard those who choose to be ignorant. There are those who are choosing to be ignorant. We have guys like, and Mike, I love you, but you're not a dumb person, but you're choosing to be ignorant. So is Eric Hayes. You choose to be ignorant. Just read and for those of you who think I'm being harsh, just look at their text messages. It'll tell you, it'll show you a certain level in there. Just look at their text their commentary, and you'll see the level of thinking right there. I'm
See,
sorry. We'll just leave you
well,
behind.
yeah,
But
it's not thinking. It's the intention. It's the intention to aggravate, like
right,
a disruptive child in school would do, but they never grew out of it.
exactly.
It's
Exactly.
something that was a challenge to me in elementary school. I used to be very, very disruptive because it got the attention of the class, and I thought that it was building popularity, and it was the only way I could socialize. But I grew out
Right.
of it, and unfortunately, a
Right.
lot of people don't.
And that is sad. That is sad. But again, let me just put LBW, our professor in the house, says we are at a critical inflection point. This can really amp up the violent rhetoric in an already tenuous situation. Violence is not the answer. You're so right, LBW. Violence is never the answer. That's why earlier I said when we had Steinberg said about the revolution, I said I am looking for love. I'm looking. I am look. I when I reach my MAGA friends, believe it or not, I go out there just like any other good old Panamanian Latino. I go out there and I give them that bear hug. Hell, Eric can tell you that because Eric and I've had coffee together. But Eric is in. I'm sorry, his mind is something is wrong there. But that's so I'm with you, LBW. I'm with you. I am never going to hit the violent streak. When we go out there and protest, it will be all non-violent. We'll defend ourselves. We'll be ready. We also will have our ears open for the kooks. Don't get me wrong. We're not going to be defenseless. We'll be ready. But we are not going to be initiating violence. nor will we be continuing violence. We will always, and if you take a look at all the movements that we are in here in the Houston vicinity, all the activists that I work with, all of them are nonviolent. We don't believe in the violence at all. So that's where we're at. Anyway, let me just say this. Eric, I go slap Eric around sometime, man. Anyway, look, thank you. I got to get out of here, and I got to go do a quick spin and then get back to writing. Patrick, go ahead. Say what you need to say.
One more statement. Uju correctively said that racism is expensive. So will be any violence and any inappropriate response to something that you don't like. So the people that think that we might be going to civil war and things like that, that will destroy the economy. Everybody will lose their job. We will get nothing out of it.
There you go. You nailed it. You nailed it, Patrick. Patrick, thank you for always being a voice of reason, a voice of intellect. Again, it's always good, especially in this time where my mind got a bit fuzzy because this is sort of, this is not what I expected for today, but it's what we got. So thank you, brother. You have a good one, okay? All right.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Anyway,
appreciate your show.
All right, brother. Peace. All right, folks. I am going to close this down, but as usual, I need to ask, please remember to support the program however you can.
All parties have disconnected the line.
Oh, wow. I didn't do it myself, so it did it for me. So please, folks, remember to support the program. And how can you support the program? You can support the program by becoming a paid subscriber of our newsletter. That's what we use to subsidize most of what we do. And that is at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. I'm going to put it in both places, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. I got to go get some exercise, and I missed yesterday, so I'm going to do about an hour of exercise. Then I'll come back here and probably do a couple more videos. It's going to be an interesting day. Look, folks, I'm going to just say this. Stay positive. Don't let hate win. Consider those who are out of it, just like you would have a sick relative and you wouldn't hold it against them. Please do that with the others. Don't be the fomenter of violence or hate. We've always gotten through this. If we could have gotten through the assassination of Kennedy, we could have gotten through the assassination of Robert F. We could have gotten through the assassination of Martin Luther King. Not that these guys are in the league of those guys, because they're not. These are provocateurs. They're not in the same league, but unfortunately, they do have the following of the lesser minds. And I hate to put it that way, but you can only follow them in that condition. So with all my thoughts, please have a excellent rest of your day. Stay positive. My name is Egberto Willis. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willis. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willis. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.